was introduced in the legislature in Austin, made the front page of today's Houston Chronicle. And quite frankly, the fact that the legislature is even considering it has to be a disgrace. The sponsor is proposing that all applicants for state welfare assistance be required to take and pass a drug test or they will lose benefits. Now, several things are bad about this bill. Probably the worst is that at least 3 states, practically identical measures have already been declared unconstitutional. The second is there's no such problem. In Florida, where the activity went on longest before it was stopped, something like 2% of the applicants tested positive for any kind of drugs. That's not a problem, people. That's less than the general population. But if we go even further, the state picks up the cost for the people who pass the drug test successfully. And no matter how they do it, it's going to cost at least $20 a test. Those who pass positive lose their benefits. And in the state of Texas, that's the wonderful sum of $70 per applicant. Now, if we do just a little arithmetic on our fingers, that means they're going to have to test 45 people who do not use drugs for every one they find that does do drugs. At $20 a test for 45 non-drug users tested, that's something like $900 for each $70 they hope to save. Please call or write your representatives and tell them we've got a much better use for our tax money than that. So I think that's probably enough politicking. We've got more important things to do this month because 420 is coming up. And most of you know that across the country for about the past 40 years or so, 420 has been the big celebration of the marijuana culture in the United States and a prime rallying time for those trying to reform the marijuana laws. And for the first time in Houston, we've got activities going on at a bunch of different venues. So CJ, why don't you tell us where and when all of these things are going to be happening?
All right, well, starting on 4/19, that's the Friday before the official 420 holiday, we are having a Where It All Began celebration at Walters on, I forgot the address already.
1120 Naylor.
1120 Naylor, thank you. And the doors open at 3 o'clock. Normal's going to have a nice education center in the green room, thanks to Herman. And we're going to hope to get everyone who comes in that door to come in through there and get educated about what's going on in Texas. The next one is, then we have 3 events that we're going to be tabling at on actual 420. One is at BFE Rock Club. It's 1960 and Jones Road. It starts at 4 o'clock. The next one is Southeast 420 Fest. It is being held at 2 places in conjunction with each other, and that's Numbers and Avant Garden. And again, the doors open both there at 420. And the last one is the One Love Fest at the Warhouse Museum on Main and 59. And again, the doors open at 4 o'clock. A lot of culture to be had.
Okay.
So, especially 420 culture.
Well, I've been to these for several years, and they're a lot of fun. They really are, and sometimes in spite of yourself, you can even learn a little bit.
We're hoping.
Herman, you've been involved with these for several years now.
This will be my 10th year.
A lot of talent comes together. What are some of the things you have lined up for this year?
Well, not just the bands, but I've also got speakers coming on to discuss different issues. Steve Nolan is coming out. I believe Dean Becker will be one of the guest speakers.
Let me interrupt you here. Steve is the president of Houston Normal and is the producer and director of this show.
Correct.
And Dean is the head of the Drug Truth Network and has 2 radio shows on Pacifica here locally.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then I have Remington Lisi, that was a member of the Green Party that ran for sheriff.
Yeah.
And that was his big thing, about reducing the misdemeanor laws and trying to decriminalize the measure here in Houston, and to try to make sure the HPD did not, use that as a means of pulling people over.
Yeah.
And he ran as for that measure. I also have some members of the tar sands group, which are going to come out to discuss the pipeline that's supposed to be coming down, bringing some evil chemicals from Canada.
Let's call it by its real name, sludge.
Sludge, yes, sir. And they're going to come out and discuss some of that issue. And I've also got a couple people probably from Occupy Houston coming out to discuss a couple of their events, because Occupy Houston has not gone away.
That's good. So, well, it sounds like it's going to be exciting. And we have one of our bands here tonight. What other kinds of musical attractions can we expect?
Well, we got, let me give you the list of the bands.
Okay.
Starting with Beyond All Deception. We have Project Armageddon. We have Robin Kirby, Annie B Band. We have Black Hole Caravan, Cleos. We have Pagan from San Antonio. We have Desecrate the Faith, Fallacy, and who else am I missing? Oh, Cerebral Down.
Okay.
Epic Death.
Epic Death, yes.
Yeah.
A little bit of variety of different styles of music.
Yeah.
And I did have some rappers that are interested, but they have not confirmed.
Okay.
So that's the biggest issue that I have. That
Well, I think that's important to note about the music, and that when I was a kid growing up, it was associated to a large extent with folk music, and as rock was coming on the scene, the two were a natural mix.
Right.
We have seen in the past decade or so the emergence of the hip-hop culture with a lot of emphasis on marijuana. And I'll tell people a deep, dark secret. I have known in my past several classical musicians who enjoyed a puff on occasion. So there's going to be music for everyone.
That's the thing about marijuana and music.
Yeah.
A lot of the musicians, when you tell them that this cause is for the legalization, they automatically say, "How can we help?" They're all down with it because they realize that it's idiotic for people to still, at this day and age, to discriminate against people that are using it for recreation, but also, in a lot of people, there's a lot of medical issues that really need to be addressed, and this is why a lot of people, they volunteer and do this very, very happily.
Yeah. And I want to note that Herman does a lot for us, the Houston Normal Group, and he doesn't even partake. Herman's actually allergic.
Okay.
So you don't have to be someone who consumes to be a supporter, especially if you just want laws changed.
Yeah. Well, let's switch to the music a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your band and why you're involved in this.
Well, we play, my band's Project Armageddon. We play what we refer to as doom metal or classic style of metal.
Yeah.
Well, Herman hit us up about getting involved in this, and right away it was like, list of bands is great. We know a bunch of them. The cause is great. The club is great. So why not get involved?
Yeah. Well, one thing that struck me as curious listening to you guys get set up tonight is you're playing a kind of rock that really sounds like my generation.
Definitely has.
What got you into this heavier kind of music?
Just growing up, I think probably all of us can reflect on that, like listening to older metal and the metal that we grew up with and stuff, and just what really grabbed us and what we kind of went with.
Yeah.
So.
What are some of the influences on your music there?
Black Sabbath, obviously, Pentagram, Cathedral, St. Vitus, even some progressive bands like Rush, some Deep Purple. All those old bands are just so amazing. It's just that's
They
really comes through, I think, a lot in our style.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I look forward to hearing from you a little bit later. So it sounds like we're all over the city this year.
Yes, there's even a couple of places that we're hoping to get some information put at, even though we won't have a representative there. We were definitely invited to quite a few, but our volunteer base is kind of low. We need people to volunteer to help spread the word.
One thing that this 420 is supposed to do is give you a chance to recruit some more people.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's,
I'm going to let you slip off and get back in your base ready to
Okay.
go here. So we'll keep talking and be ready to hear you. But yeah, 420 is a good place for people to find out who normal is and get involved in it. So I think that maybe you'll get some really, really good crowds this year.
Yeah, we're hoping.
And maybe next year it will be a legal celebration.
Yeah, like I've said before on the other show, Denver, Colorado is hosting the first ever in the United States Cannabis Cup. So hopefully we'll have a couple of, maybe, being the fourth largest sitting state.
Well,
country, we might host it one year.
I'm very curious to see whether or not they can really pull that off.
Oh, because of the
it's
federal
one thing for the DEA to kind of turn a blind eye about neighborhood pot shops in Boulder. But for world celebrities to be jetting in from Amsterdam and bringing their precious plants with them.
I don't know the gentleman's name, but I had watched an interview with him, the new drug czar for Washington State.
Yeah.
His plea is that for the feds to just leave them alone and let them see how this is going to work out. Give them an actual time to see if these policies are actually going to be able to play out the right way or benefit.
That's one thing. You said the word plea in there.
Right. Well,
But the thing is...
lies, corruption, and greed.
the thing that strikes me is that the sense I'm getting from Washington, the Justice Department in particular, is that if everything is low-key and down home and matter of fact and on the back pages of the newspaper, everyone's cool with it.
But it's not.
But when you start bringing in
Tourists
a major
and money.
international festival, I'm really not sure if Congress and the media will allow the Attorney General to ignore it.
Well,
And
they shouldn't be
there's one
ignoring
thing
it
about
now.
it.
let me add
Yeah.
a little bit for that, because I've actually been contacting a division of the Colorado Tourism
Tourists.
Department.
Yeah.
And they were interested in maybe providing like a weekend trip for somebody from the 420 Festival to go to Colorado.
Yeah.
And they basically said that they are already having people from all over Europe, all over the country, that, like she said, having this cannabis cup, that are wanting to go to Denver.
Well, I noticed a big story in the paper a week or so ago about tourist companies within the state of Denver that are starting to organize.
Right.
Think
major
about
things, but-
already how many jobs have been created. People need people to
Okay,
work
but
in
that's
advertisement.
not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about
The Fed,
is
I know, the federal.
you've got the DEA, you've got Congress, you've got all of the media, and my question is politically,
Right.
can the Attorney General afford to ignore Cannabis Cup? And I'm not sure that he can.
Well, of course he can't.
Well, are you guys about ready over there?
Yeah.
Well, then let's take a break and hear it from Project Armageddon.
This is Into the Sun.
You know, that's going to make for an exciting festival when it gets here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, and more of all sorts of different kinds as well. We'll hear more from Project Armageddon a little later in the show, but let's talk now about some more things that are going on. And you didn't seem to like my idea that the Attorney General might not be able to afford to let Cannabis Cup go
There is
unfettered.
no government official that is right now should be ignoring any kind of information that's out there about cannabis, hemp, and marijuana. It is all available on your Android phone.
Well,
you sit waiting for people to meet. What are you doing? You're on your phone.
The
there
problem
should be no
is,
reason.
as Attorney General, his job is to enforce the law.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as Congress sits on its rear end and doesn't do anything, what law does he have to enforce? In other words, right now, medical marijuana in the 18 states that have it, even decriminalization in the 24 some odd, and with the 2 states now that have legalized under state law, so far, the Justice Department has been able pretty much to keep a low profile on it and low pressure and not really interfere. But if we look, for instance, at California, where parts of the medical marijuana, and I'm going to say business because that's the one, have gotten big, they've gotten brassy, they've gone commercial big time. It's become a big money industry, and as far as I know, it's all operating nonprofit, but there's still scads of money that are circulating through it, and it's just become so obvious that there was no way until the federal law is changed that it could be left entirely alone. And while we have Oaksterdam being raided, when we have Harborside being shut down, while there have been a couple of dozen other high-profile raids like that, there are hundreds, thousands of small-scale, corner store-sized dispensaries, small farm growing operations that are operating with no trouble to speak of. And what I'm saying is that something like Cannabis Cup is much more a harbor side. When you start flashing neon signs and blowing whistles and bringing in the bands, you're just saying, look at me, shoot me, shoot me.
Well, isn't this an opportunity also for, here, Obama has said we are not going to have federal override states. We're just
No, he's not said that in
He didn't
any
promise
way
that?
at all. What he has said is that in states with medical marijuana, there are better uses for federal assets than to go after patients using marijuana. But that if anyone in the medical marijuana growth is breaking the federal law as a distributor of marijuana, particularly for profit, then the federal law will be enforced. And as far as Washington and Colorado are concerned, they have said nothing. We're still waiting to hear, and frankly, to be honest with you, I think that's the best possible news under the circumstances. The longer they go without saying anything or doing anything, the more it means that they're accepting the situation.
Well, the way I look at it is it's revenue.
Yeah.
And if this Cannabis Cup can prove that revenue can actually be generated to where that the taxation comes into the state.
That's another reason why I question whether the feds will actually let it go on.
Well, if all of a sudden the tax dollars start rolling into the federal, to the reserves, they're going to say, why are we going to stop it?
None of the money is going into the federal system.
It's all state law.
In Washington and Oregon, what taxes are collected are state level taxes and will go into state budgets. The feds still have enforcement costs, but they're not getting any revenues from it.
So then maybe they need to stop doing that enforcement. They're not going to be making revenue.
No, what they need to do, and this is what I think that reform groups need to concentrate on, is they need to force Congress to change the federal law.
There is
the only thing that's going to change the marijuana laws in this country effectively are changes in the federal statutes, and that means congressional action. So, yeah, go ahead. You were.
I lost my train of thought now.
Okay. But I agree with you that revenue is going to make some difference. So the question is how much.
They already have Vail and Aspen, Garden of the Gods, and Pikes Peak, Denver, Colorado.
Well, yeah, but at the moment, if you listen to a lot of the Chamber of Commerce types in Colorado, they seem to be running scared if a bunch of damned pot-smoking hippies come and fill up Aspen. Is that going to scare away all of our millionaire movie star clients that bring all the money in?
And they're probably their own homegrown.
Well, but what I'm saying is that right now, the business types in Colorado are more afraid that marijuana will hurt the tourist industry than they are willing to hope that it will help the tourist industry.
See, like I said, that's where I don't see that.
Yeah, I don't see that either.
When you have something like the Cannabis Cup, where you have people from basically all over the world interested in flying. They said, I think, that this one event had a total of 20,000 people.
Yeah.
Where they sold tickets for 20,000 people, and it sold out in one day.
Well, you know that, and I know that. And the regular readers of High Times magazine, which is what, a couple of 100,000 people every month,
but it's all available
know
on
that.
the internet.
But the yo-yos in the State House in Austin, the wacko birds, as they call themselves in the Capitol in Washington, don't know anything at all about this. And they're not going to go on their own and find out.
You know, when I talk to people out and about, because I get stopped with the shirt a lot, you know, I ask them to think about the people who govern us. You know, there are a lot of people who have Ivy League educations that claim ignorance on a lot of issues about cannabis or knowledge about cannabis, but it's, again, all right there available for you. All you got to do is look for it.
Yeah.
But I went to pretty much a commuter school, college, and why aren't we holding our leaders accountable for knowing this information? If it's something that they're supposed to be voting on,
because the voters don't know it either. And
it's all right there
And
online.
you've got to remember, for longer than any of us have been alive, the only thing that any of us have heard is drugs are illegal, drugs will kill you, people who use drugs commit murders and rapes and rob banks. And that's the only thing that 90% of the people in this country have ever heard.
Well, see, that's what we try to do. That's what we try to do when we're out at events.
And the only way that these people learn anything is when excuse me, they turn on TV and they look at Entertainment Tonight, and Lindsay Lohan has gotten busted for being drunk again. And that's their whole knowledge about drugs. So, you know, somebody, and I forget who it was, once said that it's awfully hard to educate someone when their making a living depends upon their being ignorant. And with that description of the average member of Congress, let's take another break and see if we can get some more of that wonderful music. So,
The whole idea of a drug-free America and zero tolerance really doesn't make much sense, does it? So it does make sense, however, to find ways to reduce the harms associated with drugs. And that's what I want to talk about.
To start thinking about whether it is really laws that make the difference on whether people use drugs or not.
Al Capone didn't shoot people because he was intoxicated.
Right, exactly.
Those people are not fighting over drugs, they're fighting over money.
Drug laws have no basis in science. Drug laws are based on politics and money.
So there's this unholy symbiosis between, on the one hand, those who are selling illegal drugs, the drug lords, if you will, and on the other side, the drug warriors.
War on drugs isn't working, and that, if anything, is just making what we call the drug problem a lot worse.
Marijuana is the oldest medicine known to man.
I was just superficially aware of it. I'm interested in medical marijuana.
Should grandma smoke pot?
With drug war black market sales fueling violence, it's time to take the profit motive out of marijuana prohibition and regulate marijuana like alcohol. Remember prohibition? It still doesn't work. Al Capone didn't shoot people because he was drunk. The cartels don't kill people because they are high. To find out what you can do to help change the laws against marijuana, visit HoustonNormal.org. We meet on the third Thursday of every month. That's HoustonNormal.org.
Normal rock!
Hi, I'm Ethan Nadelman, the founder and executive director of the Drug Policy Alliance. You're watching Drugs, Crimes, and Politics. Hope you enjoy it.
back to Drugs, Crime, and Politics, and I think it's time for some more music from Project Armageddon.
the others led the way.
Thank you.
Is gigging someplace regularly these days?
All over?
All over?
Yeah,
So,
no certain place regularly.
okay.
All over.
So you'll just have to keep your eye out if you want to find them, but,
Yes, check our website.
okay,
So, projectarmageddon.com and Facebook.
okay. So,
We got it all up there.
wonderful. So, and thank you a lot. It's been an energy-making part of the show tonight. So, anything you all want to add about 420 while we're on the subject?
There are so many fests going on. Go out and support, get out and learn, get out and spread the word about, there being an open and honest, fact-based, science-proven conversation out there. Call your representatives, get your friends to call their representatives, but get out, be part of your community. All these are put on by local bands. They're people in your community, and you should be supporting the people that are around you.
And do you have information about them on the normal websites?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. HoustonNormal.org and also the Facebook page, HNormal.
Okay.
And just interesting note that the 420 festival that I have is on the 419, which also happens to be Bicycle Day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So if you don't know what Bicycle Day is, that's the first day that Abby Hoffman dropped acid when they first discovered what LSD was all about.
Well, now that's a new one on me, and I thought I knew it all.
Yeah. So that was the first day that somebody actually discovered that acid was not the evil that people say it is.
Well, actually, I'm going to disagree with you there, because acid had been discovered and used and enjoyed by large numbers of people, including lots and lots and lots of doctors, as early as about 1950. It was only when the Department of Defense found out they couldn't use it as a truth serum in the late 1960s that they came out with acid is evil and bad. But from about 1950 to about 1960, all kinds of people used acid and realized its strong potential. It was used, surprisingly enough, very, very effectively in treating alcoholism in Canada as early as about 1955 and 1956. So it's another place where the lies have overtaken the truth.
Right. And I've taken courses in psychology, and one of the issues that different people that have manias, that's one of the things that acid actually helps people adjust to their different manias. And like I said, it's not this evil that you know the government wants us to believe it is. It's just it's a medical, could be used for medical conditions, and yet
you know one thing, and Clay and CJ both are kind of strong on this. I get kind of nervous when people start stressing the medical side of things too much, because there's much, much, much more to it than the medicine.
Right.
I can't help but think that marijuana, for instance, has had an extremely strong positive force on the creative arts and creative thinking. I think that Louis Armstrong maybe went a little bit too far when he required every member of his band to toke up before every show.
Great manager.
But I think that probably the evidence is pretty strong that it does help musicians perform better and write more creatively. We know from people like Dr. Carl Sagan that it helps scientists be creative. We likewise know that LSD has been at least given the credit by a lot of people for a lot of their creative and personal efforts. It's more than just medicine, and and I'm not even going to downplay the recreational aspect of it. Let's face it, recreation is an important part of life. And if we live in a country that celebrates a martini when you come home from work and want to relax, or it celebrates a bottle of wine with a meal, why can't we also celebrate a joint the same way?
No, I agree. And like she said about me being allergic to marijuana, to me that's the one issue that I see is that why can't a person be able to take one joint and smoke that while somebody else down the street can go buy a six-pack, drink that, get in a car, and then kill somebody?
Okay, but I don't even want to go there. I want to go to the person that comes home from work and has one highball before dinner.
Right.
No one seems to object to that.
Because it's taxable. And
well,
and you need six
they
of
were
them
doing
to...
it even before it was taxable. And I don't even really, I'm willing for political purposes to sell the fact that it can be taxed. But that's a side benefit. That's not a reason for doing it.
So you're asking about the guy who comes home and has a highball to calm down. Why isn't he smoking a joint?
I'm saying that just like some people go home and have a highball before they have supper, some other guy ought to be able to go home and have a joint the same way.
Well, I'm not strictly a proponent for the medical side of it. I want it treated like parsley. I mean, I don't want to take prescriptions and medication. I want to be able to heal myself the way that I think is natural. And this is a natural plant, along with juicing my parsley, which is a good antioxidant, with my apples. I want to be able to throw in a bit of cannabis and get some more benefit out of it.
The only thing I have ever found parsley useful for was that it provided a good metrical fit in a song lyric by Simon and Garfunkel. Beyond that, it strikes me as a totally useless plant.
It's not. It's got a lot of nutrients and minerals in it.
Now, a couple years ago at one of my 420 festivals, I discussed the issue about marijuana and the use of it for medical purposes. And I said, what if you could have used it for treatment of cancer and just had one person live one extra day just because they smoked it and allowed them to be calm and not react badly to the medications that they take. So one extra day that they could live. And after I discussed all this, I came off the stage. This lady came up to me, and she was almost in tears, and she goes, after you said that, she goes, I had been a big person against marijuana, but after what you discussed, she goes, my mother had cancer, and right now that made me think that if I had one extra day with her, and if marijuana can do that, create an ability for one person to live one extra day fruitfully here on earth, then why can't we be humane enough to do that?
Well, let's not even add that extra one day. You got me thinking about this. If we go back to Aldous Huxley, the great British writer, had a horrible disease he died of. But he had his wife bring in a dose of LSD, and at his instruction, she gave it to him on his deathbed. He passed while he was tripping. We know from experiments dating back 50 years now that ecstasy has been used successfully in grief therapy, particularly with people that are approaching a certain death from cancer or something else. It helps them face up to their fate, learn to accept it, and live with dying, to be blunt about it. So even if it doesn't add a day, it may help make a better death. So, that's
being
important.
humane.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that, to me, is the biggest issue, is that we see so much suffering in our society, and people seem to not care. And to me, I mean, you have something like medical marijuana, you said X, acid, some of these issues that could exactly be humane and relieve some pain and suffering. To me, that's it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer.
Oh, well, before we run out of time, you mentioned something earlier that in addition to working with the 420 festivals, you're also scheduling a hemp festival for this fall?
I'm probably going to schedule a hemp festival for the fall. I've never done one, but to me, it's like the popularity of this subject is growing to the point where I just don't see why not. And to me, that the message need to keep going out there. And that's the one thing that I don't want it to die just because 6 months from now, people don't hear the message and they forget about it. We need to keep that message going year round.
Okay, let me do a little plug here. I don't know if you've seen my blog, But one of my recent postings on it was, why can't we grow hemp?
Right.
And any of you out there that want to look at the hemp question a little bit, go to my blog, which is Marijuana Musings and Drug Law Diversions, and it's www.terrellmarijuana, as one word, .blogspot.com. So you might find out a little bit more about hemp. And, you know, Kentucky has come about that close to passing a hemp bill this year.
They passed it as of the 5th.
One house did.
Oh.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like it's going anywhere.
Was that the one without the signature?
The Colorado law includes hemp provisions. I believe Washington State's seriously talking about it. It's a movement that's starting to grow quite a bit of steam
I
as
think
well.
Virginia is also doing something
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
Because tobacco is all of a sudden losing steam in Virginia.
Yeah.
And they need a new product.
Well, I've been thinking, watching the news around this part of Texas for the past couple of years, with the drought and the effect that lack of water has had on particularly rice cultivation, which is water hungry, that in a lot of ways, Texas, which has always had an extremely strong agricultural business, could really grow hemp profitably. And I mean, not just in the rice lands down here, but the cotton fields of the high plains where I grew up, even down in some of the valley areas. Hemp is a low impact crop. It uses very, very few pesticides. It doesn't require much tillage. It doesn't require nearly as much water as cotton or rice or corn. And the market for it is just really amazing when you look at what's out there. So I've become almost a hemp enthusiast the past couple of years.
Cool.
Well, we're getting close to running out of time. Any last words any of you want to add tonight? Last in terms of the evening, not...
Get out to Walters on 419 at 1120 Naylor. Doors open at 3 o'clock. And then Pick a Fest on 420. We have BFE Rock Club on Jones and 1960. We have Numbers and Avant Garden. We have the Warhouse Museum. So take a pick. We'll be representing out there.
And my thing is, just because we do the 420 Festival once a year, do not let this just be a once a year event. It's something that everybody should get involved, learn what NORML is all about, go to the meetings, and start writing your congressman, start writing your legislator, just making sure people know that we are interested in changing the law.
In fact, when it comes to getting in touch with your elected representatives, make a pest out of yourself. One of the things Clayton repeats often is that so many of the members of the legislature said, I have never heard from any of my voters about this issue. Make sure that none of your representatives can make that claim. They've got to hear from you, and only if they hear from you can they do anything about it. So here we are about to wind down this show, but this means that it's time for us to start winding up the volume for 420. It's time to not only be political, but it's time to have a little fun and celebrate while we're doing it.
Project Armageddon.
I remember just going in, taking a small area of my community and for all practical purposes, cordoning it off, completely cleaning it up, using some pretty sophisticated techniques, trampling all over the edges of the Constitution to do so. But I mean, really cleaning it up and getting all of the dope dealers out of there. And to my dismay, 90 days later, I had a Haitian group to move in from downstate. I had the Miami boys to move in from Jacksonville, and they were shooting machine guns and beating people mercilessly, and I wanted my old dope dealers back.
I am glad that in this administration we have increased the amount of money for handling the problem of dangerous drugs sevenfold. It will be $600 million this year. More money will be needed in the future. I want to say, however, that despite our budget problems, to the extent money can help in meeting the problem of dangerous drugs, it will be available.